You're listening to all of it on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. April marks both National Poetry Month and Arab American Heritage Month, a time to celebrate the rich cultural contributions of Arab American voices. From classic poets to contemporary Arab American writers, there's a wealth of work that speaks to this moment and offers new ways of understanding the world around us. For example, Lebanese poet Zaina Hashim Beck's book, O, explores the limits of language as well as home and exile. Then there's Palestinian-American physician Fadeh Joudah, whose poetry collection is called The Earth in the Attic, explores identity loss and displacement. This Tuesday, the New York Public Library is hosting a celebration of Arab American poets featuring special readings from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library Event Center. To help us explore some more recommendations is Cleo DeLassa here from the New York Public Library. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
All right, so the Poetry Committee read more than 200 books to select their 25 picks. How did you and your colleagues decide which collections to highlight? What were you looking for?
That's a great question. I would say that we were looking for poetry that, spoke to the contemporary moment. Not necessarily books that were following a certain trend, but things that really reflected where we are in the world, both politically and socially. But when it comes to poetry, I think it's like, what can be really cool about it is looking for poems that sort of explored myth and explored like past forms. I remember there's a collection that I really liked called No Swaddle that was all like sonnets. I think looking for poetry that, stood out, was outside of the box, but reached in with the history of the form.
That's pretty cool to be on the Poets Committee at the New York Public Library.
It was pretty fun. Certainly quite the responsibility. But we read our books independently, and there'd be some chatter throughout the month of like, ooh, really liked this one, keep eyes on this. And then we would meet at the beginning of the month and highlight the books that we liked, inevitably get into some of the ones that we didn't care for as much. Mm-hmm. And those conversations were always very fun.
Well, you're going to read a poem for us.
Yes.
What are we going to hear first?
The title of the poem is, I believe it is The Economy by Ariana Rines in the book The Rose. The Rose is one of my favorites of the year. It was on our list. It was actually kind of difficult to find a poem from this collection because a lot of it was maybe not safe for
public radio, yes.
Yes, but, I thought that this one really got to the heart of the collection and was very, poignant, punchy, and, I'm excited to read it.
Okay.
The Economy. I didn't love that I had this tendency toward melody or the appetite for drama, always obvious in my thinking and in everything I did. I wasn't TV, though I watched myself passively, as though brained or bludgeoned out of the fullness of my own reality. I felt I had to respect what seduced me, even if stupidly, even when it made me stupid, or meant I was, making of my mind a begging bowl, laying myself waste for the devil, making an innocent victim of the child within. So ferociously I did fear something adult, like sovereignty. Survival was a big box store-bought blanket, not wet but scented with the antiseptics of the factory it would take days to air out, get it to resemble the picture of something homey and grandmother made. I know what it's like to pay money for such. The three-dimensional image of things, to find them feeling hollow and smelling wrong. I know what it's like. The imitation of life. I almost know what it means. I disciplined my own form and the thinking within me. This may not be religion, but it was grim theology. The more muscle I had, the better I felt I could contain and conduct the sorrow within. The smoother ran my blood and lymph. My body dismayed me, and I hated, adored it. Recurrent dreams of defective dolls kept coming back to warn me, you are not a thing. You are not the object against which forces tilt that you cannot control. You are the entire subject of the world. Tears rolled down a cheek of stone. My friend Terry writes about water and land, mother and brother, like a singer. I once despaired to her that the only endangered species I had managed to speak up on behalf of to that moment was myself. This seemed squalid and narrow to me. Terry said it was real territory. I blinked melancholy into the seething night like a spotted owl in the eye of a security camera, black and white bird without offspring or prey. My body is filled with plastic. I left my mother to die, to write these lines. You will parry that such is a false economy, but so are all the other ones we live by.
In celebration of National Poetry Month and Arab American Heritage Month, Cleo DeLassa, a member of the New York Public Library's Poetry Committee, is here to share a few suggested readings. Oh, by Zaina Hashem Beck. She was on your list before as well.
Yes, 2022.
Tell us something she does with language that draws you in.
Yeah, so a lot of her poems in that collection are bilingual. They're written in Arabic and in English, which, I don't speak or I don't read Arabic. And there's a little note at the beginning of the collection that says that the Arabic and English, they serve both as like a translation, as an echo, and as like a contradiction of one another. I think this kind of speaks to something that I love out of poetry in general, which is that like you can kind of sit there and you can read the words and you can understand them, but you can also know that the large majority of maybe what the poet's intentions are going to wash by you, and that it's, other people will be able to have that interpretation that you don't. I thought O was an excellent collection. I wasn't on the committee back in 2022, but I wish I was to review it. There's a lot in this book about memory and family, like nationality and homelands, which those all come up definitely throughout the rest of the books that I, read in preparation for this. And a lot of the contemporary Arab poetry covers a lot of those themes.
The Earth in the Attic by Dr. Fadeh Judah. It was published in 2008. He's both a physician and a poet. I love that combination. How do you think his professional experiences shape the depth of his poetry?
It's really interesting because I sort of halfway through the collection read some background on him and was like, oh, this is quite clarifying. I see, because there is a lot of stuff regarding these poems were written. It came out in 2008, so a lot of it was written after the Second Intifada, and he was working as a doctor with Doctors Without Borders in Palestine. And I think that there is a lot of there are a lot of poems in there with very, I would say, intense themes of war and of healing as well, of caring for others. It's funny though, because I think there's definitely my favorite poem in this is a poem called Resistance that is actually about a couple, like an elderly couple living in sort of like domestic bliss, like in the midst of war.
Oh, wow.
So I think like that is sort of speaks to his role as a doctor as well. It's like, he's caring for others with, destruction around them.
Tell us about Rifka, Mohammed El-Kurd's collection.
Rifka's excellent. That's 2021 written. It's a lot of it. Rifka is about his grandmother and about the connection of him to his grandmother and them to the land of Palestine. It is, I would say, one of the all of these collections are definitely very political, and there's a great line in one of the other in O that was if I told you I do not choose to write about war and the children, would you believe me? I'm tired of knocking on the doors of empires. And I think that is sort of, Mohammed El-Kurd is not afraid to write about, war and the children. It will directly confront, the genocide in Gaza. And he has a really strong poetic voice. I found his writing to be like really cutting and beautiful. And it was a collection that you kind of saw everywhere for a period. And I think deserves the acclaim and attention it received.
We've got about a minute and a half left.
Sure.
Is there any poet that I haven't mentioned that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I really enjoyed reading Something About Living, which is Lena Halaf Tufaha, which was written after the March of Return protests. It won the 2024 National Book Award for Poetry. And I found that the poems, they really did center around, she's a Palestinian poet, around Palestine. But they are really universally applicable to the current moment. I thought there was one that really could have been written, about the America today. Every empire seems invincible as borders submerge. Its manicured hillsides incinerate between guaranteed next day deliveries. And, I think it also, like, a lot of I read that and I hear climate change as well, of like, what do we sacrifice in order for endless convenience? I thought that was an excellent collection, and that was considered for the 2024 list.
We have been talking about National Poetry Month and Arab American Heritage Month with Cleo DeLassa, member of the New York Public Library's Poetry Committee. If you'd like to hear more about the list, you can find it on the Best New Poetry Books at NYPL.org. Thank you for coming to the studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's more, all of it, on the way. The new series, The Testament, continues the story of The Handmaid's Tale, set in an elite private school where future wives receive quote-unquote training. Coming up, star Chase Infinity and showrunner Bruce Miller will join us.